Inside the goblin's hideout, multiple goblins were bedridden due to the poison. Curson and the goblin from earlier were observing the food and water supply. The goblin explained that the water poisoned their food sources. The goblin questioned who would do something so cruel, but Curson knew Hyunmoo was the only person capable of something like this. But he questioned how Hyunmoo managed to find their hideout. He concluded that Hyunmoo probably followed him back. Then a goblin approached Curson asking him to take a look at one of the goblin babies. The baby goblin was Curson's son, and seeing his sick child brought Curson to tears. Curson stormed out of the hideout to find Hyunmoo. The others followed behind trying to stop him. They asked him what he planned on doing against an enemy that can revive. The goblin says they should give up on taking revenge, so Hyunmoo would stop bothering them, where they could run away and find a new hideout. Curson lifted his sword in the air. The sword started to glow. The other goblins asked Curson if they were speaking to him. Curson says they were, meaning they had no choice but to pursue Hyunmoo. One of the goblins pointed out the body of the scouts they had sent out recently. Curson could smell the poison and knew instantly that it was Hyunmoo's doing, but it could also be a trap, so he ordered the other goblins to return. The other goblins refused. They didn't want Curson to face the cruel human alone. Curson explained that Hyunmoo is leaving hints behind to lure them away from the hideout, so they needed to return to prepare in case he attacked. The other goblins asked him to return with them, but Curson says he would stay and hunt Hyunmoo down. Although Hyunmoo is growing faster than he expected, he is still stronger than him. He explained that he could kill Hyunmoo with his eyes closed, so the others had nothing to worry about. The goblins knew Curson was strong, but Hyunmoo could come back to life. Curson told them not to worry because he promises to come back alive. With this, the other goblins decided to put their faith in Curson and return to the hideout. Curson continued his hunt for Hyunmoo, and a while later Hyunmoo attacked him with a hell dart. Curson smiled and told Hyunmoo he wouldn't give him a painless death. Hyunmoo told Curson that he would give him a chance to die by his hand. Curson asked him why he seemed confident. Hyunmoo asked him to think carefully and explained that if he wanted to, he could have killed all the goblins in the hideout, and although he only killed a couple, he's not sure if he would be merciful next time. Just like Curson said, he could keep coming back alive, but would Curson be able to stop him from killing the goblins in the hideout? Curson lifted his sword and said he would cut Hyunmoo's limbs and take him back alive as a captive. Hyunmoo grabbed his sword, saying, "Even then I will kill myself and come back to life." He threatened Curson's family and explained that Curson could do nothing about it. However, all he wanted was his revenge. He didn't want to hurt his family, but if Curson kept attacking him, then he would have no choice but to get his revenge on his family. The goblin dropped his sword and asked Hyunmoo if his life is all he wanted. Hyunmoo didn't want to waste time and told Curson that his life is what he was after. Curson asked Hyunmoo to keep his side of the deal and leave after he killed him. Hyunmoo bent over to pick up Curson's sword. He says if Curson would have done this from the start, then he wouldn't have hurt the other goblins. As he was picking up the sword, Curson sent him flying with a kick. Then Curson picked up his sword and jumped at Hyunmoo. Hyunmoo blocked his blade. Curson damned Hyunmoo, asking him if he thought he would believe his lies. And just as promised, he would make his death very painful. Curson started striking Hyunmoo and brought him below 10% health. Hyunmoo started regenerating. He smiled and told Curson that he should have killed him in one hit. He punched Curson, then grabbed him by the neck and lifted him in the air. Then he sent him flying into a wall with a punch. He told Curson that he was holding back a lot, and he even gave him a chance to end this. Hyunmoo tackled Curson into the wall and proceeded to use him as a punching bag. Curson couldn't believe it. He thought Hyunmoo was on the brink of death, but questioned how he was regenerating so quickly. He questioned how Hyunmoo managed to get so strong in that short time. Hyunmoo could tell exactly what was going through Curson's mind and explained that Curson was careless. Since Curson had been killing him in one hit this entire time, they never actually fought each other. Curson got cocky, believing he could kill Hyunmoo whenever he wanted, making him careless. Curson told Hyunmoo not to get cocky because he could still kill him whenever he wanted. He attacked him to take his neck, but suddenly fell to the ground. Hyunmoo smiled menacingly. He explained that it was too late for that because he didn't plan on being careless like Curson. He showed Curson the hell dart that he used to stab him. Curson started begging him to listen to him. He explained that goblins couldn't live in hell without blessing. Hyunmoo smiled, asking Curson if his people would really die if he killed him. Curson explained that without him they wouldn't be able to survive and would die slowly. Hyunmoo smiled again, wondering if he would get the experience for their deaths. Then he beheaded Curson. Hyunmoo completed the enemies on a wooden bridge quest and received a silver box that was converted to a golden box. He leveled up 3 times, and his return stone was activated. Renian appeared, asking Hyunmoo if the battle was over. Hyunmoo told her that it was, and said she could eat Curson's body once he was done inspecting it. Hyunwoo was trying to find what made Kurson so strong. His physical capabilities were too great for him to be reliant on a weapon. He noticed that Kurson's hand had writings on it, so he picked it up to observe it. Suddenly, the shattering star gall started guiding his hands, and the writing on Kurson's body transformed into a black ball. Hyunwoo managed to absorb a piece of the shattering star gall. He also learned the legendary skill family. Later, Hyunwoo teleported back to the real world and was in Min's house and woke her up. Min was acting strange and told Hyunwoo that she was going to the convenience store. Hyunwoo stopped her, asking if something was wrong. He started questioning if he should tell her the truth. Min explained that Park came back a few days ago asking for Hyunwoo. She told him that he wasn't here, but that got her thinking why Park would ask for Hyunwoo. It didn't seem like it was for crystal moss, so she questioned if something happened while he was gone. The more she thought about it, the more she realized she had no clue what was happening with Hyunwoo. What was Hyunwoo doing when he disappeared, and what other secrets could he be hiding? She didn't care what it was. Hyunwoo involved her in it, so he should take responsibility. She wanted to know why he keeps disappearing and appearing in strange places. He never explained what was going on, so she felt uneasy. Hyunwoo grabbed her, asking her to calm down. He says he would explain everything to her. Hyunwoo understood why Min was acting this way. She was deeply involved in what was happening, and even if something urgent was happening, she pretended like it wasn't bothering her. He also gets help from her, and it's gotten to the point where he couldn't think of living without her. If something happened to her down the line because he was keeping secrets, then he would be all alone, and if that happened, he would go insane. He explained everything to her, the return stone and hell. He explained that the return stone is why he kept disappearing. Because of that, it was harder for him to figure out how long it would take to return. She asked him if one day he wouldn't return. Hyunwoo told her no matter what he would return, so he wanted her to be his lighthouse. She snuggled close to him, saying she didn't just want to be a lighthouse, and if he needs help then she would rescue him herself. Hyunwoo told her that he hadn't showered in a while, so she shouldn't be close to him. She laid on his lap saying she hadn't showered yet, and asked Hyunwoo if he wanted to shower together. One day later, Hyunwoo exited Min's house because the day he promised Park had passed. He needed to act quickly. In the time he was trying to figure out how to contact Park, he arrived to give him a ride. Inside the car, Hyunwoo told Park that he was level 20, but Park couldn't believe it. Hyunwoo apologized for returning late and explained that he had certain issues. Park apologized to Hyunwoo, saying he can't believe him since there is no way to check his status window, and Hyunwoo asked him about their deal. Park says he already gave him his answer back then, but given the trouble he went through, he would stop forcing him to form an alliance with Tisun Guild. On top of that, he is willing to buy the crystal moss at an increased price of 15%. Hyunwoo said it needs to be 30%, explaining that if Park was going to break their promise, then he needed something more because he worked hard to reach level 20. Park started emitting murderous intent, saying Hyunwoo hadn't changed even after all the work he put in. Hyunwoo smiled and asked Park if he thinks everything would be solved if he got angry. He took out the crystal moss from his inventory, asking Park if he knew what a monopoly is. Park should know well how special the crystal moss he sells is, and no one other than him could sell crystal moss of that quality. It is just as he said, he had a monopoly on the crystal moss, so if Park kept giving him the cold shoulder, then he would stop selling. Park says he was already matching the highest price in the market for 5-star dungeon crystal moss and is willing to pay 15 extra, but he couldn't pay anything higher. Hyunwoo stored the crystal moss back in his inventory. He threw something at Park, saying he would give him something more interesting than the crystal moss. Park caught the item, asking Hyunwoo what he was doing. Hyunwoo asked Park to open his hand and see for himself. It was nothing special, but should work as a deposit. Park opened his hand, shocked to see the legendary item Trust of Our Haste, which doubles the owner's senses temporarily in use. Hyunwoo knew that someone like Park would recognize the item immediately and explained the effects of the ring. He told Park that not even Lee would give him a present like that, and says he was more useful than Lee. He told Park to keep it until he admits he was better than Lee. Park couldn't believe it. The ring was without a doubt a legendary item, which is nothing compared to the gloves he had last time. However, based on the shape of the ring, it looked like there should be another that matches it. He asked Hyunwoo if he happened to have the other ring. Hyunwoo says he wasn't sure because that was the only one he found. Park was a little disappointed, but they should be able to find the other ring soon enough. He told Hyunwoo that he would send him his money at double the price he offered, because if the amount of crystal moss Hyunwoo had this time, it would be hard on Min, so Park offered to take care of it so they could evade the National Tax Service. Hyunwoo was impressed with Park's skills, and that's why he was trying so hard to get him to join him. And he also had the other ring. The ring tracks the owner of Trust of Our Haste and can temporarily lower their experience gained by 50%. Park asked Hyunwoo if he wanted anything else, and Hyunwoo asked him for his car. Later, Min exited her workroom to pick up a call from Hyunwoo. She made her way outside angry angry about the fact that he is bothering her while she was at work. Hyunwoo, who was standing next to Park's car, called out to her asking what time she planned on going home. Min asked Hyunwoo how he got the car, and he told her he got it from Park. Min asked him if he drove himself to her workplace. Hyunwoo said yeah, explaining that it wasn't hard, so maybe he should just get his license. This angered Min and she dragged him into the car. The two proceeded to have a lovely date. Later at a gym, Hyunwoo and Park were having a sparring match. While using Hyunwoo as a punching bag, Park explained that a guild isn't just an organization of hunters. It was a place for hunters to train and ready their bodies for the battlefield known as dungeons. From advertising, tax evasion, housing, clothes, training, health services, transport, everything a hunter could ever need will be at their whim. Every guild is like a small company. Among them, Tisun Guild has the best benefits. Whether it be for glory or money, it's a loss not joining the Tisun Guild. Hyunwoo says that even then he won't be joining the Tisun Guild and launched a counterattack. However, Park countered his counterattack and sent him flying. He praised Hyunwoo's reaction time, but is a bit sad he didn't get to see his regeneration like last time. Hyunwoo recovered from Park's attack, saying his ribs were fractured and that Park is only winning because he wasn't using skills. Irritated by Hyunwoo's cockiness, Park took off his shirt, and as he attacked Hyunwoo, he asked him if he would join the Great Unknown Guild instead of the Tisun Guild. While dodging Park's attack, Hyunwoo says the guild seems a little shady. Park told him he wasn't wrong, since the only information known about the guild leader is his name. Hyunwoo asked Park about the rank 3 national associations of hunters. He heard they were down to earth and welcoming to others. Some people even say the NA's kindness is too much. Hyunwoo found an opening in Park's attack pattern. He took this opportunity thinking it was his chance to finally land a hit. However, Park quickly grabbed his hand and broke it. Hyunwoo was brought below 10% health and he started regenerating. Seeing Hyunwoo regenerating, Park was intrigued. He questioned if the broken hand was healing or just moving back into place. He realized that's what happened the last time he fought Hyunwoo. Hyunwoo sat down asking Park if he was happy now. Park says he is excited to see what may happen to Hyunwoo down the line based on his absurd growth speed. And now that they were done feeling each other out, he asked Hyunwoo why he called him here. Hyunwoo told him he just wanted to return the car, and asked Park if he heard of beings known as stars. Park asked him if he was talking about the system all hunters use. Hyunwoo told him he wasn't talking about the system, but things like shattering stars. Park was surprised that Hyunwoo knew about stars. He himself only heard about stars from the top rankers. It is something only the chosen few know about. Other guilds only mention stars in their name, like the guild known as Reverse Cross Crusade that uses the Star of Bethlehem as their symbol. Hyunwoo asked Park what the Star of Bethlehem was, and Park said Hyunwoo would find out about them down the line. He also asked Hyunwoo if he wanted to try and clear a dungeon. However, Hyunwoo didn't want to, and he asked Park why he brought it up all of a sudden. Park explained that if Hyunwoo was planning to not work for a guild and rise up the ranks like Lee, then he would need to attract the attention of people. Hyunwoo needed to learn how to socialize with others. Hyunwoo still didn't want to. A true introvert to the core, Park told him that even though he has a secret dungeon that he trains in, there is no official record of him actually entering a dungeon. And with no records, getting information would be hard. And if he kept going like this, he would be seen as a hunter with no experience. Not knowing what to do, Hyunwoo asked Park what he should do, and Park angrily told him to enter a dungeon. Park explained that even geniuses need to learn the basics, and he was willing to prepare everything. All Hyunwoo had to do was get ready and go where he told him. For now, he told Hyunwoo to wait for his call. A while later, Park's phone call came, and Hyunwoo had to go to Chingai Mountain. The Chingai Mountain has a permanent 1-star dungeon, which is a place where people who just awaken can test their abilities. On top of that, normal citizens come by to hike and look at scenery, so Hyunwoo questioned why Park sent him to this dungeon. Suddenly, a hunter holding a plate started beating on the plate, calling all the hunters to gather in front of her. And as they gathered, she counted them, making sure the 5 hunters were present. She then explained that she was the overseer from the Great Unknown Guild, and her name is No Hail. As she explained why the hunters were assigned an overseer, the new hunters could tell Hale had been drinking. First, Hale explained that many cocky hunters that try to clear the dungeon often start fights with others. There have been a lot of accidents due to those hunters. Because of that, any party is assigned an overseer as a preventative measure. A mid-rank hunter from each guild would come and follow them if they planned on raiding the dungeon again. And if they didn't want her in their business, all they had to do was not start fights with each other. Next, she explained basic dungeon rules. Assuming that they knew dungeons get harder with every star, Hale explained that they were premature and mobile dungeons. A mobile-type dungeon constantly changes, making it hard to predict and complete. On the other hand, a premature-type dungeon has a set terrain, making it a lot easier to predict and complete. Which means a one-star dungeon like Jingichin should be easy as shit to complete. But even if they encounter danger, she would step in. All that talking made Heo woozy, and she threw up in front of the new hunters. She apologized to them, saying she was out late last night. With all that out of the way, it was time for the hunters to introduce themselves, starting from the left. First was Park Seomun, a 2-star hunter. Second was Han Najeong, a 1-star hunter. Third was Kim Seoing, a 1-star hunter. Fourth was Kim Suhwan, another 1-star hunter. Finally was Hyunmoo, and although he was strong enough to spar with Park officially, Hyunmoo was only a 1-star hunter. Hail instantly closed the distance between her and Hyunmoo and took a good look at his face. She listed different middle schools, high schools, and colleges, asking Hyunmoo if he went to any of those. Hyunmoo said he didn't. Hail tried her hardest to think but couldn't due to the hangover. Since she couldn't remember, she guessed it wasn't important and asked Hyunmoo if he brought any equipment. Hyunmoo used the create skill to create a stick, impressing Hail with his skill. However, even though his skill was impressive, Hail asked him if he really planned on fighting monsters with a stick. Hyunmoo explained that the stick was pretty special because it causes any monster he hits it with to drop their item. Seomun was angry, asking Hyunmoo if he was playing some kind of joke. Hyunmoo had been acting funny for a while, and now he is trying to use a stick as a weapon like some comedian. He took off his backpack and dropped it on the ground, asking Hyunmoo how he planned to kill the monsters with just a stick. The bag fell over, revealing a bunch of weapons. Seomun says Hyunmoo should have brought more weapons than him since he was only 1-star. He picked up a sword from the pile of weapons, telling Hyunmoo he should buy weapons for their value. He pointed his sword at Hyunmoo and said if even a 2-star hunter like him is carrying around weapons like this, a 1-star should be twice as equipped. Hail quickly dashed at Seomun, flipping him into the air and grabbing the sword. Then she struck the sword into the ground next to Seomun's face. She asked him if he was crazy because showing off weapons outside of dungeons was prohibited. She explained that showing off can cause discourse and anxiety for normal civilians, and even if Seomun was a newbie, did she really have to teach him the basics of the basics? Seomun apologized and she handed him his sword back. With this settled, it was time for them to start heading out. Hail was a middle-class hunter from a large guild, and although she wasn't as strong as Park, she was still pretty strong. And Hyunmoo wanted to test out her abilities. As Hyunmoo was standing there, Kurson appeared from his shadow with bloodlust in his eyes. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, then hit the like button.